Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I stood in the blazing Colorado sun, squinting at the empty spot where our car had been just 10 minutes earlier. My wife, Kyla, and her friends Emma, Serena, and Lauren had disappeared. At first, I thought it was just another one of their stupid pranks. They were always pushing boundaries, testing how much I could take before I broke. 5 years of marriage had worn me down. I'd grown used to their games, the way they laughed at me, and how Kyla would join in instead of defending me. But this time felt different. My phone was still plugged into the car charger, my wallet left in the glove box. All I had was the faded t-shirt and jeans I was wearing, and a growing pit in my stomach as the minutes passed. We'd been on this road trip to Serena's lake house for 3 days, and I'd been miserable the whole time. Kyla had begged me to come, saying it would be a chance to bond with her friends. I wasn't keen on the idea her friends always treated me like an outsider, throwing jabs and sharing inside jokes I wasn't part of, but I went anyway because I loved her, or at least I thought I did. The gas station was in the middle of nowhere, a dusty little stop off the highway with a flickering sign and a single pump. I'd gone inside to use the bathroom, thinking they'd wait for me. They always did. But this time, they didn't. An hour passed. I paced the cracked pavement, kicking pebbles, telling myself they'd be back any second, that I'd hear the crunch of tires or Kyla's voice calling gotcha. But the road stayed silent. 2 hours later, sweat was dripping down my neck, my throat dry. I replayed the last few days in my mind, the way Serena smirked when she spilled coffee on my lap, how Lauren whispered something to Kyla that made her giggle while sneaking glances at me, and how Emma just watched everything with that smug grin. I should have seen it coming. They'd been building up to this, and I was too blind to notice. A truck pulled up, its engine rumbling loud enough to snap me out of my thoughts. The driver, a big man with a gray beard and a stained ball cap, leaned out the window. "You okay, buddy? You've been standing here a while," he said, his voice rough but kind. It hit me like a punch. I wasn't okay. They weren't coming back. Kyla wasn't coming back. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, my ride left me. Think you could help?" He nodded, like he'd seen someone stranded like me before. "Hop in. Where you headed?" I didn't even know any more. Home. Back to Kyla and the life we'd built. But as I climbed into the cab, something inside me shifted. 5 years of her laughing at me, brushing me off, letting her friends treat me like dirt, all that anger and hurt came flooding back. I stared out the window as the gas station disappeared in the side mirror. The trucker didn't ask many questions, just kept driving, humming an old country tune. My hands clenched into fists on my lap. I could have borrowed his phone, called Kyla, demanded answers. But what would she say? It was just a joke. "Babe, don't be so sensitive." I'd heard that line 1,000 times before. Every time I complained about her friends, Kyla would roll her eyes and say I didn't get their humor. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I never would. But standing there alone, abandoned like a stray dog, I realized something: they didn't get me either. And Kyla? She kept choosing them over me, again and again. The trucker dropped me off at a crossroads and pointed toward Grand Junction, the nearest town. "Good luck, man," he said, tipping his cap. I nodded, my throat tight, and started walking. My shoes scraped the dirt, the sun blazing overhead. No phone, no money, no plan, just me on the open road. Part of me wanted to turn back, beg someone at the gas station to call her, to fix this. But a louder part pushed me forward. I was done being the joke, done being the guy they laughed at. Kyla and her friends thought they'd won, thought they'd broken me. But as I trudged toward Grand Junction, a strange calm settled over me. They hadn't broken me, they'd set me free. I didn't know what awaited me in that town. I didn't know how I'd eat, where I'd sleep, or how I'd survive with nothing. But for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what Kyla would think. I wasn't worried about her friend's next move. I was alone, yes, but not helpless. The road stretched out before me, endless and empty, and I kept walking. They'd left me behind, but maybe that was the best thing they could have done. Maybe this was my chance to find out who I was without her, without them. By the time the sun began to dip low, painting the sky orange, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going back. Not to Kyla, not to that life. Whatever came next, it was mine to build. I stood at that dusty crossroads where the trucker had dropped me, the Colorado wind kicking up little swirls of dirt around my feet. Grand Junction was somewhere ahead, but I had no map, no phone, no money, just the clothes on my back and a head full of spinning thoughts. Kyla and her friends had left me high and dry. Part of me still wanted to find a way to call her, to hear her voice, to demand she turn the car around. But then I remembered how she'd laughed when Serena spilled my beer at the lake house, how she'd shrugged when I asked her to stand up for me. 5 years of that, 5 years of feeling like a guest in my own marriage. No, I wasn't calling her. Not this time. I started walking toward town, my sneakers crunching on the gravel, the sun still high and baking the ground. Sweat soaked through my shirt. I didn't know how far Grand Junction was miles. Probably, but I didn't care. Every step felt like a choice, like I was leaving her behind one footprint at a time. My mind kept drifting back to the gas station, to the moment I stepped out of that grimy bathroom and saw nothing but empty pavement. They'd planned it, hadn't they? Kyla, Serena, Emma, and Lauren, all of them giggling in the car as they peeled away, thinking it'd be hilarious to ditch me. I could almost hear Kyla saying, "He'll figure it out. He always does." Well, I was figuring it out now, just not the way she expected. A pickup truck rumbled by, and I stuck out my thumb, hoping for a ride. The driver, a scruffy bearded guy in a faded flannel shirt, slowed down and leaned out the window. "Need a ride?" he asked, eyeing me like he wasn't sure if I was trouble. "Yeah, heading to Grand Junction," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded. "Hop in. I'm going that way." I climbed into the passenger seat, grateful for the break. The cab smelled like oil and cigarettes, but it beat walking. "What's your story?" he asked as we rolled down the highway. I hesitated, then shrugged. "Got left behind by some people I thought I could trust." He grunted, like he'd heard that one before. "That happens more than you'd think out here." He dropped me off on the edge of Grand Junction, near some low buildings and a blinking traffic light. "Take care, man," he said and drove off. I stood there, taking it all in. A small town with a mix of old brick storefronts and newer chain stores. People going about their day like nothing was wrong, but everything was wrong for me. No wallet, no ID, no way to prove who I was. I needed help and fast. I spotted a sign for a homeless shelter a few blocks away, a plain building with a cross painted on the side. My stomach twisted at the thought. Me in a shelter? But what choice did I have? Inside, it was dim and smelled like bleach and stale coffee. A guy behind the counter looked up. His name tag said Reed. He was older, maybe 50, with a shaved head and a no-nonsense stare. "Lost or just broke?" he asked, sizing me up. "Both," I admitted, rubbing the back of my neck. "Got ditched out on the highway. No money, no phone, nothing." Reed didn't blink. "Happens. You got a name?" "Yeah. Milo," I said, figuring it was easier to stick to the truth for now. He handed me a clipboard with a form. "Fill this out. We'll get you a bed for the night. Tomorrow, we figure out the rest." That night, I lay on a cot in a room full of snoring strangers, staring at the ceiling. My mind wouldn't shut off. Kyla's face kept popping up, her voice, her laugh. I wanted to hate her, but part of me still ached for her to show up and say it was all a mistake. But Reed's words stuck with me. Tomorrow, we figure out the rest. He wasn't messing around. The next morning, he sat me down with a cup of weak coffee and a plan. "You need ID to do anything, job, bank, whatever. That takes time, but we'll start the process. Meanwhile, you need cash." I nodded, feeling useless. "Anywhere hiring?" I asked. Reed smirked. "There's a diner down the street. Owner's a tough old broad named Jocelyn. Tell her I sent you." The diner was a squat little place called Jackie's, with red vinyl booths and a jukebox in the corner. Jocelyn stood behind the counter, a wiry woman in her 60s, tattoos winding up her arms, and a voice rough like gravel. "Reed says you need work," she said without even looking up as she wiped the counter. "Yeah, I do," I replied, shifting nervously. She squinted at me, as if trying to see right through. "The dishwasher quit yesterday. Pays crap. Hours are long. You steal from me, you're dead. Start now." I blinked, caught off guard, but nodded. "Okay, I'm in." She tossed me an apron, and just like that, I was scrubbing plates in the back, my hands soaking in hot water. It wasn't much, but it was something mine. No Kyla, no friends laughing at me, just me and a pile of greasy dishes. Reed stopped by later that week, helping me with the paperwork for a replacement ID. "You're doing all right, Milo," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. I wasn't so sure, but I kept going. The shelter became my home, Jocelyn's diner my lifeline. I didn't call Kyla, or even try. Every night I fell asleep exhausted, but it was a good kind of tired. I was starting over from nothing, and somehow, it felt like maybe, just maybe, I could make it work. I woke up on that cot in the shelter every morning to the same ache in my back, the familiar chorus of snores and coughs from the other guys around me. It had been a couple of weeks since Kyla and her friends had ditched me at that gas station, and I was still adjusting to this new life, scrubbing dishes at Jocelyn's diner, sleeping on a borrowed bed, wearing clothes from a donation bin. My hands were raw from the hot water and soap, but I didn't mind. It kept me busy, kept my mind off her. Reed had been a rock, helping me navigate the slow process of getting a replacement ID. "Takes time," he'd said, handing me a stack of forms, "but you'll get there." I nodded, grateful for his gruff kindness, and kept pushing forward. The diner was my world now. Jocelyn didn't mess around, she barked orders from the counter, her sharp eyes catching every mistake. Move faster, Milo. We ain't got all day, she'd yell, but there was no real anger behind it. I worked double shifts whenever I could, stacking cash in a small envelope I hid under my cot. My first paycheck wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a cheap prepaid phone from the gas station down the street. Holding the plastic in my hands, still shiny and new, I felt a rush of something like pride. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, bought with my own money, not Kyla's or anyone else's. I didn't need her anymore. Then the call started. I'd only had the phone a day when it buzzed in my pocket while I was elbow deep in suds. I wiped my hands on my apron and pulled it out. Kyla's number flashed on the screen. My stomach dropped. I let it ring, watching it like it might bite me, until it went to voicemail. A minute later, the notification popped up. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. Her voice came through soft and shaky, like she'd been rehearsing what to say. Milo, where are you? We waited for you. It was just a joke. We're so worried. Please call me back. I stood there, staring at the sink with the water still running, worry gnawing at me that they'd really left me stranded in the middle of nowhere with nothing. If they'd planned to come back, they would have by now. The phone buzzed again, this time Serena. I played her voicemail, and the tone was completely different, smug, casual. Come on, man, you have to admit it was funny. Call us back. Funny. I held the phone so tight. That's all I was to them. A joke, something to laugh about over drinks at the lake house. More calls followed, a flood of them. Kyla again, then Lauren, then Serena. Voicemails and texts piled up. We miss you. Where'd you go? This isn't funny anymore. I scrolled through them all, my chest tightening, my head spinning. Kyla's words echoed in my mind, fake concern, fake tears. None of them cared. That night, I sat on my cot in the shelter. It was quiet except for the creak of springs and the hum of the heater. The phone glowed in my hand, their messages lighting up the screen. I listened to Kyla's voicemail again, then Serena's, then one from Lauren that ended with her giggling. My thumb hovered over the call button. Part of me wanted to dial Kyla, scream at her, demand to know why she'd done this, but what good would it do? She'd just laugh it off or cry and make me feel guilty like always. I'd spent years swallowing their cruelty, smiling through it because I thought that's what a good husband did. Not anymore. I went through the list: Kyla, Serena, Emma, Lauren, and blocked every single one. My fingers shook a little as I hit each block, but once it was done, the phone went silent. No more buzzing, no more lies. I leaned back against the wall and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It felt like cutting a rope I'd been tangled in for years. They couldn't reach me anymore. They didn't get to decide how this ended, I did. The next day, I went back to the diner like nothing had happened, plunging my hands into the dishwater and letting the heat burn away the last of their voices from my head. Jocelyn noticed something was off. You're quiet today, she said, tossing me a rag to wipe down the counter. Trouble, I shrugged, not wanting to get into it. Just sorting some stuff out. She snorted, long as it don't mess with my kitchen. I smirked. She didn't care about my drama, just the job. It was refreshing. Later, Reed stopped by with a paper showing my ID case number was moving along. You holding up? He asked. I nodded. Yeah, better than I thought. He clapped me on the shoulder and left me to it. By the end of the week, I'd saved enough to buy a second-hand jacket from the shelter's donation pile. Nothing fancy, but it kept the chill off. I walked back to my cot at night with the prepaid phone silent in my pocket, feeling lighter. Kyla and her friends were gone, cut out like a bad habit. I didn't need their apologies or excuses. I had work, a bed, a plan, small things, but they were mine. The ache was still there, sure, the sting of betrayal, but it was fading. With every dish I scrubbed, every dollar I tucked away, I was building something new, something they couldn't touch. For the first time in a long time, I fell asleep without dreaming of her. I'd been at the diner for months now, and things were starting to feel steady, not perfect, but steady. The shelter was still my home, but I'd saved enough to move into a tiny studio above a laundromat in Grand Junction. It wasn't much, just a single room with a lumpy mattress, a hot plate, and a bathroom so small I could barely turn around in it, but it was mine. No more crowded shelter beds, no snoring strangers, just a key in my pocket and a door I could lock. Jocelyn had noticed me working hard at the diner and bumped me up to prep cook, which meant more hours and a little extra cash. I'd chop onions and peel potatoes in the back, the rhythm of the knife keeping my hands busy and my mind quiet. It was hard work, but it felt good, like I was earning something real. The nights were still tough. I'd lie on that creaky mattress staring at the water stains on the ceiling, and Kyla would creep back into my mind. I'd see her smile, hear her laugh, not the cruel one she used with her friends, but the soft one she gave me back when things were good, before I became her punching bag. I'd wonder what she was doing, if she missed me, if she even cared. The loneliness hit hard, sometimes a cold weight in my chest that wouldn't go away. But then morning came, and I dragged myself out of bed, pull on my jacket, and head to the diner. No fear of her judgment, no cruel jabs from her friends, just me, free to breathe, free to be. One night, after a long shift, I was messing around with my prepaid phone, bored and restless. I kept it simple, no contacts, no ties to the past, but curiosity got the better of me. I made a fake social media account, just a random name with no picture, and looked her up. Kyla's profile popped up, still public, still full of her perfect little life. There were pictures from the lake house trip, her and Serena posing by the water, Emma grinning with a drink in her hand. Then I saw a post about me. It was a photo from years ago, us smiling at some picnic, and her caption hit me like a slap. Missing my love. I pray he finds his way back to me. I stared at it, my thumb frozen on the screen. Missing me? She hadn't even come back for me. She'd driven off and left me to rot. I scrolled through the comments, Serena saying, "He'll turn up, don't worry," Lauren chiming in with, "Sending you hugs." My stomach twisted. They were all in on it, playing this game like I was the bad guy. I clicked off the phone and tossed it onto the mattress, running my hands through my hair. I almost laughed right there in that dingy apartment, the sound echoing off the bare walls. It was all so fake, classic Kyla twisting the story to make herself the victim, like I'd just wandered off instead of being left behind. I scrolled through the comments again, Serena saying, "He'll turn up, don't worry," and Lauren chiming in with, "Sending you hugs." My stomach churned. They were all playing along, painting me as the villain. I locked the phone and tossed it onto the mattress, running a hand through my hair. I almost laughed right there in that dingy apartment, the sound echoing off the bare walls. The next day at the diner, I was quieter than usual, still chewing on everything I'd seen. Jocelyn noticed, of course she always did. "You look like someone kicked your dog," she said, sliding a plate of fries in front of me during a slow stretch. I shrugged and picked at the food. Just thinking too much. She raised an eyebrow, arms folded across her tattooed chest. "That ex of yours?" I froze, surprised she'd nailed it. I'd never given her the full story, just scraps. "Yeah," I admitted. "Saw something online. She's making it look like she's the one who got hurt." Jocelyn snorted, loud and unapologetic. "Sounds like a real piece of work. Good riddance, kid." I nodded, managing a small smile. She was right. Good riddance. Work kept me grounded. I diced vegetables, flipped burgers when the cook needed help, wiped down counters, anything to stay moving. The diner had its regulars, people who'd nod at me or leave a couple bucks on the table. It felt good, like I belonged. My hands were calloused now, arms stronger from hauling crates and scrubbing pans. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the diner's glass door, tired eyes, messy hair, but I saw a guy who was holding it together, one day at a time. Kyla's post faded from memory, replaced by the clatter of dishes and Jocelyn's gruff voice barking orders. I stopped checking her social media after that. Didn't need to. Whatever lies she was spinning didn't matter. I had my studio, my job, my life. Small, sure, but it was growing. The loneliness still came, especially on quiet nights when the laundromat downstairs rattled and hummed. But it didn't hit as hard anymore. I'd wake to the smell of detergent drifting through the floorboards, pull on my boots, and step into the cold morning air. No one was waiting to mock me. No one rolling their eyes at every word. I could just be Milo, plain, simple Milo, and that was enough. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on solid ground, not sinking in quicksand. Freedom wasn't loud or dramatic. It was this: my key, my paycheck, my choice, and I wasn't giving it back. I'd been living above the laundromat for a while, settling into a rhythm that felt like mine. Work at the diner, save up, sleep in my own space. The days blurred together, but they were good. Steady. Then she walked in, Selena. She started coming to Jocelyn's diner twice a week. Always sat in the same booth by the window. Always had a stack of textbooks and a pen in hand. She was a med student, I could tell from the way she mumbled medical terms under her breath while scribbling in her notebook. Her order never changed. Denver omelet, no tomatoes, extra coffee. She barely looked up when I brought it over. Sometimes I'd catch myself watching her, amused by how she'd get so absorbed in her studies that her fork would hang midair for a solid minute before she remembered it was there. I'm not sure why I started messing with her. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I just wanted to see her smile. I began swapping out my name tag with made-up names: Bob one day, Steve the next, then Carl, just to see if she'd notice. At first, she didn't, too buried in her books. But one morning, I walked over with Rusty pinned to my chest, and she finally looked up. Her eyes narrowed, flicking from the tag to my face. "Your name tag is wrong," she said, quiet, firm, like she was diagnosing me. I grinned, caught a little off guard. "Is it?" I asked, even though she'd never actually asked my real name. She smirked, just slightly, and went back to her notes. That was our first real moment, and it stuck. Work kept me busy, but Selena quickly became the highlight of my week. She'd show up, order the usual, and I'd find excuses to swing by her table, refill her coffee, clear her plate, ask if she needed anything. She'd nod or give a quiet thanks, but that smirk stayed in my head. It felt like a challenge. One day she came in looking exhausted, hair a mess, her backpack weighed down with books. Rough night, I asked as I set her coffee down. She sighed, rubbing her eyes. Exams. I haven't slept in 2 days. I nodded, didn't push it, but when she wasn't looking, I slipped an extra hash brown onto her plate. She noticed. You're sneaky, she said. I shrugged. Gotta keep you awake somehow. Our first date wasn't even planned. She showed up one evening dressed up jeans and a nice top, way different from her usual hoodie. My friends bailed on a reservation at this pizza place across town, she said, almost to herself. Then she looked up at me. I'm not wasting it. You free? I was wiping down the counter, my shift almost over, and Jocelyn was within earshot. Go on, kid, she barked. You're no use to me moping around. So I went. We split a pepperoni pizza and a pitcher of soda. She really laughed when I told her about the fake name tags. I knew you weren't a Rusty, she said, eyes bright. You're not that old. We talked all night about med school stress, my job at the diner, silly stuff like favorite movies. It felt easy, natural, like we'd known each other forever. 6 months later, she moved into my little studio. It was cramped, her books took up half the space, and we'd constantly bump into each other cooking on the tiny hot plate, but I didn't care. She'd study late into the night, her lamp glowing while I slept, and I'd wake up to her muttering anatomy terms in her sleep. Weirdly enough, it was comforting. A year later, we upgraded to a bigger place, a real apartment with an actual kitchen and a couch that didn't smell like bleach. Selena was nothing like Kyla. She didn't mock me, didn't make me feel small. When I doubted myself, she'd simply say, "You've got this," and somehow, I believed her. We cooked together, watched old TV reruns, argued over dishes left in the sink. It was simple, but it was ours. Kyla, though, wouldn't let go. She started emailing me. Somehow, she'd found my address, probably from an old bill. The first one came a few weeks after Selena moved in. I was chopping peppers at the diner when it popped up on my phone. Milo, I just want to know you're okay. I miss you. We all do. I stared at it, knife hovering over the cutting board. Miss me? She'd abandoned me at a gas station and laughed about it with her friends. And now she missed me? I deleted the message without replying. More followed. Some short, others long. All of them oozing with that same fake sweetness she was so good at. I messed up. I know. Please talk to me. I saw your grandma, she's worried. They stirred that old ache in my chest, sure. But I hit delete every time. One day, Selena caught me frowning at my phone. Who's that? She asked. Nobody, I said. And she didn't press. She didn't need to. I wasn't going back. Life with Selena was good, better than I thought I'd ever deserve. The diner was humming, my hands were steady, and Kyla's emails had become background noise, easy to ignore. I'd built something real, something solid. Every day with Selena proved it. She'd tease me about my cooking. I'd laugh at her off-key singing. We'd fall asleep, wrapped up together on our secondhand couch. Kyla could send all the emails she wanted. I didn't know her anything. My world was here now with Selena, and I wasn't letting go. I was working the grill at Jocelyn's diner, flipping a burger as the sizzle and grease filled the air. Things had been good, better than good. Selena and I had settled into our new apartment, a big upgrade from the cramped studio above the laundromat. It had a real bedroom, a stove that didn't smoke, and a window that let in honest-to-God sunlight. Life felt solid, like I'd finally climbed out of the pit Kyla and her friends had buried me in. Work was steady too. I'd been at the diner long enough that Jocelyn started trusting me with more than dishes and prep. She barked less now, nodded more when I got things done right. That day, during a slow stretch, she called me over to the counter. Her sharp eyes locked onto mine like she had something serious to say. Milo, she said, wiping her hands on a rag. You're not half bad at this. I smirked, thinking she was joking, but her face stayed dead serious. I'm opening a second spot across town. Smaller joint, but it's mine. Need someone to run it. You in? I froze, spatula in hand. The burger's still sizzling behind me. Me? Run a diner? Sure. I'd gone from scrubbing dishes to working the line, but managing a whole place? You serious? I asked, my voice rougher than I meant. She snorted. Do I look like I'm kidding? You've got the chops. You work hard, don't steal, don't whine. Say yes or no. My head spun. A year ago, I was stranded at a gas station with nothing. Now, I was being offered a chance to run a diner. Part of me wanted to say no, convinced it was some kind of setup like one of Kyla's old tricks all over again. That night, I sat on the couch, ours now, staring at the TV without really watching. Selena came home from a late study session, dropped her bag by the door, and noticed me just sitting there. "What's up?" she asked, kicking off her shoes. I told her about Jocelyn's offer, my voice low like saying it too loud might make it disappear. "She wants me to run her new diner. Me in charge." Selena dropped down beside me, her knee brushing mine. "And you're thinking of saying no?" she said, reading me like she always did. I shrugged, rubbing the back of my neck. "I don't know. What if I mess it up?" She took my hand, her grip steady. "You're already running that place half the time, taking orders, fixing things, stepping in when she's yelling at someone else. Just make it official. You've got this." Her words hit me hard like a jolt I didn't know I needed. She didn't hesitate, didn't question, just believed in me. And that was new. Strange. Good. Kyla would have laughed. Said something like, "You? A boss." Her friends would have joined in, mocking me. But Selena just looked at me calm, sure, and I nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." She smiled that quiet smile I loved and leaned her head on my shoulder. "Good. Now stop moping. We've got dishes to do." I laughed, feeling lighter, and we did the dishes together, her humming off key while I flicked water at her. The next day, I told Jocelyn yes. She grunted, like she'd been expecting it, and tossed me a set of keys. "Don't burn it down," she said, and went back to counting cash. The new diner was small, 10 tables, a counter, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people, but it was mine to run. I started the following week, setting up schedules, ordering supplies, stepping in to cook when the line backed up. It was chaos at first, missed orders, burnt fries, but I got the hang of it. Selena had been right. I'd already been doing most of it. Now it just had a title. The place started to settle. Regulars trickled in. Jocelyn even stopped by once, gave me a nod. "Not bad, kid," she said. And in that moment, I felt taller than I had in years. Then another email from Kyla came in. I was at the new diner, checking inventory on my phone, when it popped up. "Milo, your grandmother's been asking about you. Please let us know you're okay." My stomach clenched. Grandma. She'd always been kind, still sent me cards even after the divorce. But Kyla dragging her into this? It was a low blow, a cheap hook to reel me back in. I pictured her typing the message, maybe even working up fake tears. Guilt was her go-to weapon. I deleted it, my thumb pressing the screen harder than it needed to. She didn't get to use Grandma against me, not after everything. I hadn't called home in a while, sure, but I'd fix that on my own. Not through her. I threw myself into the diner even more after that, keeping busy so I wouldn't drift into old memories. Business was picking up, truckers pulling in, locals chatting like I belonged. And every night, I came home to Selena, hunched over textbooks at our table. Her books were always spread out when I got home, and she'd ask how my day went. "Good," I'd say, and I meant it. We'd cook dinner together, nothing fancy, just pasta or burgers, and talk about her classes, my shifts, and sometimes, the future. Kyla's emails kept coming, piling up in my trash folder, unopened. She was a ghost now, a shadow I could choose to ignore. My life wasn't in the past anymore. It was here, the diner, Selena, the keys in my pocket. I'd been abandoned once, left to figure things out alone. And I did. Now, I was building something real, something no one could take from me. Every night, I locked up the diner, drove home to Selena, and felt like a man who'd finally found solid ground. I was flipping eggs in the kitchen of my third diner, the one on the edge of town, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Morning rush was in full swing. Truckers shouting for coffee, waitresses weaving through tables, dishes clattering in the sink. I almost ignored it. 15 years had passed. I was a different man. Selena and I were married now. 2 kids tearing up the house, and 3 diners keeping me on my feet. Life was full, messy, loud, good. Nothing like the hollow shell I'd been when Kyla left me at that gas station. I wiped my hands on my apron and pulled out my phone. A LinkedIn notification lit up the screen. "Someone viewed your profile 27 times today." My stomach dropped a little. I barely used LinkedIn, just a bare-bones page with my name, the diners, and a blurry headshot Selena had insisted I upload. But 27 views in one day? I opened it. The grill hissed behind me, and there she was, Kyla. Her name hit like a slap of cold water. Right there, bold on the screen. Connected to some company I didn't recognize and didn't care about. 27 views. She'd been digging through my life again and again. I set the phone down, gripping the counter to steady myself. 15 years. And somehow, she was back. Not in person, but in that quiet, sneaky way she always had. Creeping in from the edges like a shadow I thought I'd outrun. I flipped the eggs, barely seeing them, my thoughts racing. Why now? What did she want? I'd blocked her years ago. Ignored the emails, the guilt trips. Built a life she couldn't touch. But there she was, hovering. Watching. The kitchen smelled like bacon and syrup. The clatter of plates and shouts of the morning rush helped ground me. I finished plating the eggs, handed them off, and turned back to the grill, trying to refocus. Coffee needed topping up. Hash browns were starting to burn. but her name wouldn't leave my head. I imagined her, sitting somewhere, staring at my profile, seeing the diners, maybe even the old job at Jocelyn's that I still had listed. Did she know about Selena? About the kids? I hadn't posted much, just enough to make the page look legit. But 27 views meant she was looking hard. I wiped my forehead, sweat mixing with the kitchen heat, and picked up the phone again. Her profile stared back. Kyla, older now. Shorter hair. A tight smile in her picture. Consultant, it said. I didn't read the rest. Didn't want to. I stepped into the back, just a small storeroom lined with flour bags and canned goods, and leaned against the wall. My heart was pounding like I'd sprinted a mile. 15 years. A wife. 2 kids. A business I built from nothing. And she could still shake me. I hated that. I'd buried her. Or thought I had. The gas station. The laughter. The way she made me feel like nothing. Now she was back, not with words, just watching. Was it jealousy? Regret? Desperation? I didn't know. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing the tight storeroom. A part of me wanted to message her, "What's your deal?" But I stopped. That's exactly what she'd want me, reaching out, giving her a crack to slide through. So I went back to the grill and threw myself into the chaos. Cooking, plating, wiping down tables when the servers got slammed. The regulars nodded like always. One guy asked for extra ketchup, and I kept moving, keeping my hands busy. But she was still there. In the back of my mind, those 27 profile views gnawing at me like an itch I couldn't scratch. That night at home, I didn't tell Selena. She was folding laundry on the couch, the kids shouting upstairs over some game. Busy day? She asked, glancing up. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile and kissing her forehead. Same old. She didn't press, just handed me a pile of socks to sort, and I sat beside her, folding like everything was fine. The house smelled like her chicken and rice comfort food, and the kids tumbled down asking for dessert. I laughed, told them no. For a second, it all felt normal. But Chloe was still there. A ghost I couldn't shake. I didn't check LinkedIn again. I didn't need to. 27 views was enough. That night, Selena and I washed dishes together, her hip bumping mine like always. I tried to focus on that, the life we built. 2 kids squabbling over the last cookie. A wife who believed in me. 3 diners I'd clawed into existence. Chloe couldn't touch that. Not really. Still, I went to bed with her name echoing in my head, staring at the ceiling while Selena breathed softly beside me. The next morning, I was at the first diner, pouring coffee when my phone buzzed again. I didn't look, just shoved it deeper in my pocket. If it was her, I didn't want to know. I'd spent years locking her out. Now she was knocking again, quiet but steady. I threw myself into the work. Grill, register, counters. Kept my hands moving, my voice steady. She was out there somewhere, but I was here. Grounded. Solid. Whatever she wanted, whatever game this was, I wasn't playing. Not now. Not ever, if I could help it. I was wiping down the counter at the original diner, the one where Jocelyn first gave me a shot, when the door jingled. And they walked in. Chloe, Serena, Emma. 3 days after those LinkedIn alerts, and part of me had been waiting for something like this. The breakfast rush had just thinned out, leaving a few regulars nursing their coffees. The air was thick with grease and the smell of burnt toast. I saw them before they saw me, Chloe's cropped hair catching the light. Serena still walking like she owned the place. Emma hunched beside them like she wished she was anywhere else. My gut twisted. My hands froze on the rag. 15 years since they'd left me at that gas station. And now here they were. In my diner. My turf. I didn't move at first, just watched them pick a booth by the window. Their voices low but unmistakable. I could have stayed behind the counter. Let someone else handle it. But something pulled me forward, anger maybe, or just the need to face it. To see it through. I grabbed the coffee pot, more to hold on to than anything, and walked over. Chloe saw me first. Her eyes widened. Her mouth dropped open. Oh my God. It's you, she said, her voice trembling like she hadn't planned for this. Serena leaned back, that familiar smirk on her face. Hey, look at you. Big shot now. Emma glanced up, then quickly dropped her eyes, her fingers fiddling with the corner of the menu. I stood there, coffee pot in hand, taking them in, older, worn, carrying a quiet kind of desperation I hadn't expected. What do you want? I asked, flat and direct. My voice was harder than how I really felt. Kyla shifted, leaning forward, her hands wringing together. Milo, can we talk? Please? I didn't sit. Didn't soften. I'm working. Talk. She swallowed, shot a quick look to Serena, then started in. Her life had unraveled, her little business failed, her marriage to some guy I didn't know had fallen apart, and now she was broke. Reaching. Serena jumped in, playing it cool like always. You're doing okay, right? 3 diners? We just need a little help. You know, for old times. Emma nodded, voice barely a whisper. Just a little help. I listened, let it all roll over me, Kyla's sob story, Serena's fake charm, Emma's silent guilt. They'd coordinated this. Track me down. Thought I'd fold. I gripped the coffee pot a little tighter, the heat grounding me as I watched them squirm. Kyla's eyes were glossy, Serena's smirk faltered, Emma was tearing up her napkin. I thought of those 27 profile views. The LinkedIn stalking. The audacity to show up here like I'd forgotten what they'd done. I turned and walked back to the office, a tiny room with a desk and a pile of receipts. My boots echoed on the floor. They wanted money. After leaving me with nothing. After laughing about it. They thought I'd just hand it over. I sat down, chair creaking, stared at the wall for a beat. My hands trembled, not from fear. From fury. I didn't yell. Didn't throw them out. Instead, I pulled out an envelope, scribbled a check, and walked back out. They were still whispering, heads snapping up when they saw me. I dropped the envelope in front of Kyla. She grabbed it fast, her face lighting up just for a second. Then she opened it. $73.50. The exact price of a Greyhound ticket from Grand Junction to home. 15 years ago. Her smile vanished. She froze, breath catching. Serena snatched the check, scowling. What the hell is this? I leaned in, voice low and steady. That's what it would have cost me to get back to you that day. I didn't. You don't get more than that. Kyla's mouth opened, but no words came. Serena shoved the check back at me. You're a jerk, Milo. After everything. I cut her off. After everything? You left me. You laughed. This is me being generous. Emma flinched, fists clenched in her lap, but she didn't say a word. I straightened up, looked them over, Kyla pale, Serena burning, Emma shrinking into the seat. It's time to leave, I said, loud enough for the whole diner to hear. Don't come back. I turned away, heart pounding but steps steady. The waitress hovered nearby, unsure, but I waved her off. They're done, I said, grabbing a rag and wiping my hands. They lingered a moment, stunned, then scrambled out. Kyla shoved the envelope deep in her purse. Serena muttered something under her breath. Emma trailed behind. The door jingled shut, and the diner returned to its rhythm, coffee pouring, forks clinking, like they'd never been there at all. I poured myself a cup, my hand steady now. They came here begging, thinking I'd bend. And I shut them down. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just cold, final. I took a sip of coffee, the bitterness sharp on my tongue, and glanced around at the regulars chatting like nothing had happened. Kyla's tears, Serena's rage, they didn't matter. I'd given them exactly what they gave me years ago, just enough to walk away. Leaning against the diner's front window, the glass cool against my arm, I watched them in the parking lot. They'd just stormed out after I handed Kyla that check, $73.50, bus fare from Grand Junction. Nothing more. Now they were at it, arguing. Serena was the loud one, waving her arms around, her face twisted in fury. She looked like she wanted to punch something. Kyla just stood there, the envelope crumpled in her fist, staring at the gravel, shoulders slumped. Emma lingered on the edge, arms crossed tight, looking ready to bolt or break down. Maybe both. I couldn't hear them through the glass, but I didn't need to. I knew the tone, the blame, the unraveling. They came in expecting me to fold. Instead, I shut them down. Now they were falling apart, and I felt nothing. The sun was low, casting a warm orange over the lot, their shadows long and stretched across the gravel. Serena jabbed a finger at Kyla, no doubt blaming her for dragging them here, for screwing everything up. Kyla shook her head, slow, tired. Then she shoved the check into her purse like it was worthless. Emma looked toward the diner, her eyes finding mine for half a second before flicking away. I didn't move, didn't blink. They could fight out there all day, it didn't matter. I closed the book on 15 years of their crap. That was enough. I turned back to the counter, picked up my mug. Cold now. Bitter. Didn't matter. The diner was quiet again, just a couple of regulars finishing their pie. The jukebox murmured some forgotten tune. I wiped down the counter, slow and methodical, letting the rag soak up the grease and noise of the day. The waitresses moved around, clearing plates, giving me sideways glances. They'd seen it, those three walking in, me walking out with that envelope, but no one asked. You good, Milo? One of them said, stacking dishes. Yeah, I said, short and clipped, and kept wiping. I didn't want to talk about it. Didn't need to explain. Kyla and her crew were gone. I was done. Driving home, the truck rumbled beneath me, headlights slicing through the dark. My hands gripped the wheel, my mind replaying at Kyla's face when she saw the check, Serena's scowl, Emma's silence. It should have felt great, and mostly it did. But there was this itch, a faint tug I couldn't shake. They looked desperate. Broken. Kyla especially, with her story about everything falling apart. 15 years ago, I might have cared. Might have chased after them. Tried to help. Not now. Now I just watched them walk away. My house came into view. Lights on. Selena's car in the driveway. I exhaled. This was real. This was mine. My family. My life. Not them. I walked in, kicked off my boots at the door. The smell of leftover lasagna filled the air. Selena sat at the kitchen table, papers spread out, pen in hand grating again, probably. The kids were upstairs, their voices muffled. Probably in bed. Maybe not asleep. She looked up, glasses low on her nose. "Hey," she said softly, tilting her head. "You okay?" I nodded, pulled out a chair, and sat across from her, my hands flat on the table. "They came by," I said, keeping it simple. Her eyebrows lifted, but she didn't interrupt. She waited. "Kyla, Serena, Emma asked for money," I continued. "I gave them bus fare and told them to go." She set her pen down and leaned back, eyes steady on mine. "Bus fare?" she asked, a small smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. I told her $73.50, the exact cost of a ticket from Grand Junction all those years ago. How Kyla's face crumpled, how Serena snapped, how I turned and walked away. Selena listened, her hand resting calmly on the table. When I finished, she reached over, her fingers brushing against mine. "They can't take anything from you that you don't give them," she said, her voice soft but steady. I looked at her, the weight of those words landing deep. I nodded. "Yeah," I said, my throat tight. She gave my hand a gentle squeeze, then turned back to her papers, leaving me there with the heaviness lifting just a bit. She didn't need to say more. She understood me. And that was enough. Later, we ate leftovers, just the two of us. The kids were finally quiet upstairs. I picked at the lasagna, my mind still half in the parking lot, Serena shouting, Kyla staring, Emma folding in on herself. But it didn't matter what they'd said out there, who they tried to blame. They came looking for a handout. I gave them a mirror. Selena didn't ask anything else. She talked about the kids, our son's math test, our daughter's new obsession with drawing cats. I smiled, nodded, let her pull me back into the moment. After dinner, we cleaned up. Her hip bumped mine by the sink, and I felt grounded again. That night, lying in bed beside her, her breathing slow and even, I stared at the ceiling. The house creaked softly, the kids shifting in their rooms. I replayed at those three in my diner, then out in the lot, falling apart. They couldn't touch this. My family, my diners, me. I'd shut the door, locked it, and they were on the outside where they belonged. The itch was still there, faint, but fading. Selena was right. They got nothing I didn't give, and I gave them an ending. I closed my eyes. The day slipped away. I slept hard, done with their ghosts. Now I stood in our kitchen, stirring a pot of chili on the stove. The scent of spices filled the air. It had been weeks since Kyla, Serena, and Emma walked into my diner. Since I handed them that $73.50 check and watched them fall apart in the parking lot. Not a call, not an email, not even a ping on LinkedIn. They were gone. For real this time. And I felt it. A quiet that settled deep, like a storm finally passing. Life rolled on, Selena grading papers at the table, the kids chasing each other around the backyard, the diners humming with regulars. It was mine. All of it. And they couldn't touch it. I'd stopped looking over my shoulder. Stopped waiting for the next knock. The chili bubbled, steam curling upward. I gave it a taste, needed more salt. Maybe a kick of pepper. Selena glanced up from her stack of tests, her glasses slipping down her nose. Smells good, she said, smiling that soft smile I loved. Better be, I said, grinning. She laughed light, easy. The kids burst in from the yard, all noise and energy. Our son came charging in, waving a muddy stick, while our daughter shrieked about some bug she'd found. Out both of you. Wash up, I barked, pointing to the sink. They groaned but obeyed, splashing water everywhere. It was chaos, loud, messy, but it was ours. Kyla's face, those tears she tried to sell me, faded a little more each day, replaced by this. Work was steady too. I bounced between the three diners, flipping burgers, checking stock, cracking jokes with the waitresses. The regulars knew me now. Old Tom with his never-empty coffee cup, the big tipping trucker, the lady who always asked for extra napkins. They'd nod and say, "Hey Milo," and I'd nod back, grounded, like I finally belonged. Jocelyn stopped by the first diner one morning. Her tattoos had faded, but her glare hadn't. "You didn't screw it up," she said, giving the place a once-over. Then she clapped my shoulder and walked out. High praise from her, I muttered, chuckling as I poured coffee for a table. And I thought about how far I'd come from a gas station nobody to this. I didn't check on Kyla anymore. No fake accounts. No late-night scrolling. I'd done that once, years ago, watching her play the grieving widow online. But now, I didn't need to know. She was out there somewhere, living whatever life she had after her business went under and her marriage fell apart. Serena and Emma may be still mad, maybe still blaming Kyla. Didn't matter. They'd come looking for help, and I'd handed them the end. That $73.50 check was the last thing I'd ever give them, just enough to walk away, like they once left me. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. That weekend, Selena and I took the kids to the park. It was crisp, leaves crunching under our boots. Our son ran ahead, kicking a ball. Our daughter clung to my hand, pointing at every squirrel. Selena walked beside me, her arm brushing mine. We didn't talk much. Just watched, breathed, lived. For a moment, I thought about Kyla, her voice cracking that day in the diner, and then I let it go. She couldn't touch this. Not even close. I'd built this life without her. In spite of her. And it was better than anything she ever offered. You're quiet, Selena said, nudging me. Just happy, I answered. She squeezed my hand, knowing I meant it. Back home, we had the chili too spicy. The kids complained, but still shoveled it down, arguing over the last roll. Selena rolled her eyes at their noise, and I sat there taking it all in. This was it. The best kind of revenge, if you could even call it that. Not some grand confrontation. Not rubbing it in their faces. Just living well. Living real. Kyla wanted me to break. To crawl back. But I didn't. I walked away from that gas station. From her. And I kept going. Reed at the shelter. Jocelyn's diner. Selena's laugh. These kids. Every step was mine. Every piece earned. They didn't lose because I beat them. They lost because I stopped playing their games. The days kept moving, school runs, diner shifts, quiet evenings with Selena on the couch. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. Kyla was just a memory now. A shadow that couldn't touch me anymore. Sometimes she'd flash through my mind, her smirk, her tears, but it never stayed. I'd turn the radio up, flip a burger, hug my daughter, and she'd fade away. The diners thrived. The kids grew. Selena and I bickered over little things, like whose turn it was to mow the lawn. It was simple, messy, perfect. I'd wake early, make coffee, stand in the kitchen, looking out at the yard and feel it. Peace. Deep and steady. One night, after the kids were asleep, I sat on the porch with a beer, the cool air resting on my skin. Selena came out wrapped in a blanket and settled beside me. What's on your mind? She asked softly. I took a sip, staring at the stars. Nothing, I said, then smiled. Everything. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat quietly together. Kyla was gone. Really gone. And I was here. Whole. The best revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was this right now. A life so good I didn't have to prove a thing. I'd made it. And that was enough. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.